I know that it has been a long time since I last did a video, and I'm only laughing because the minute I think that everything is going to be okay, it really is not. And for those of you who follow me on social media, you know I very rarely get personal. I try and keep somewhat of a wall between my personal life and kind of what has become a little bit more of a public one on social media and television and so on. But I'll periodically post photos when I become obviously a very proud dad moment and have to post about my kids or my wife and so on and so forth. But some of you may have seen that my father was in the hospital, and I put out kind of a notice for prayers, good thoughts, good energy, whatever it is that you might want to offer. I asked for it, and I'm going to make sure that my audio here is good. So make sure, guys, if you can just comment if it's okay, because it's been a while since I started doing this, so I kind of forgot about the software. But anyway, so some of you saw that, and again, the response from that was amazing. My father had seen that, my mom as well. That so many people from around the world were sending their good energy, prayers, and well wishes. Sadly, things took a turn for the worst. The first week of February, he was. Again, we don't have to get into any details here health-wise, but things took a turn for the worse. It was primarily why I was offline for so much, at least in doing stuff like this, because it was tough. I will admit, for those longtime listeners of this channel, you guys probably heard my dad. He called in once or twice on the live call-in shows, which I want to bring those back. There's no reason I haven't done them, but for more so just time reasons, I usually stick with the chat in the last few episodes. But Dad would call in, and he would talk, and I was going to bring him back to do like a full interview, because a lot of you had learned about his background working on the space shuttle and a couple of other things. Slight crack audio. I don't understand why the audio is breaking up. Slight crackle, huh? Well, let me just double check here. Everything is set correct. Now it's cracking, huh? I'm not sure how to fix that. It is the internet. Interesting. I'm seeing the comments kind of fly on Facebook and YouTube. So maybe I won't do a full, maybe I won't do the full segment, but at least chat with you guys for a little bit, and we'll see how this turns out. Anyway, going back, you guys learned a little bit about my dad's background. I was going to bring him back, and we just never did it, and that may become one of my bigger regrets in life, because the first week of February, things took a turn for the worst, and my father ended up passing away on February 9th. And again, that is something that I posted one time about, I think mostly on, I did post it on Twitter as well, because he had kind of created his own kind of following through his Facebook posts. He even goes back to my Black Vault message forums when I had those. And he was very much like me. He would irk a lot of people if you ever saw him online, and I only smile because that was him. He really didn't mean anything malicious, but he could be a little bit brash, much more than myself. So he loved it, though. He loved interacting with everybody, and loved listening and watching. And he and my mom are I don't consider myself having fans, but they are two of my biggest fans, and they would listen in, and especially during like Jimmy Church's show with Fade to Black, Dad was always there, and he'd be texting me through the show, and he just loved listening in. So yeah, that was a little bit of a tough loss. Now, I didn't want to start this video broadcast on a bummer note, but that just to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of what I've been up to and where I've been at, and that is primarily doing that kind of filled in the blanks between my normal day job and being a dad myself. So it was tough. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm always learning things, or at least I try to in life, no matter what it is. And I I think in the last couple of weeks, you hear growing up, cherish every moment, take advantage of every moment. You never know, you never know. And you hear that 1,000 times over. I didn't realize the magnitude of that or the meaning of that until about 2 weeks ago. And then you start really going back and regretting and thinking and overthinking and questioning. So here I am saying the exact same words I've heard millions of times over the years, but you just don't understand it until, God forbid, something actually happens. So it was tough. It really was. But today I was going to create like a small video to at least update the channel of where I'm at. And I was actually recording it prior to this and thought, let's just jump on live. I mean, this is live. This is not recorded. I stopped that video and then just kind of put it out like, hey, let's just do it live and say hi to you guys and do the explanation. I was going to record an episode. You guys were saying that that the audio was a little bit bad. For those who were saying that, if you can kind of post in the comments, if it still is, that would be very helpful to me. For those who don't know what these videos are, it's simply this. I call them the behind the scenes or BTSs. Some people in the beginning would get all excited because they thought I was like interviewing that pop I think that, what do they call it? K-pop or whatever, the band BTS. No, behind the scenes is the abbreviation for BTS. And it really is just that. Sometimes I record multiple segments. If you haven't been into one of these, record multiple segments, sometimes one, sometimes none. You guys kind of like lead this a little bit. It's very much informal versus the edited videos and stuff like that. And we just kind of go behind the scenes and we just kind of, see where it's at. So looks like the audio's better. So we'll take a stab at this segment. For those, you may have seen the story. You may have not, but I've been meaning to do a video on this for the last couple of days. So why don't we take advantage of it right now? I'm happy to take questions from you guys. Since I am broadcasting it today on all of the social media channels for the Black Vault, including my Facebook page, the comments go a little bit nutsos because it shows me every comment on every social network all on my screen here. So I try and keep up as much as I can. I know that all capitals are frowned upon, but if you have a question, please put it in all caps because that's the only way I can really see it. Super chats, if you're watching on YouTube, 100% go to the website itself. I don't take anything off the top or go out and buy myself a dinner. But if you do decide to support the channel, just know it does go right back into buying these documents, filing these requests, so on and so forth. Those comments and questions also stick out more than all else, simply because then they show up in bright colors on my screen. So those I can grab a little bit easier. So again, all caps, or again, if you decide to support the channel on YouTube, you can do so through the super chats. If you have no idea what that is, you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, just go to theblackvault.com/live, and that will bounce you to the YouTube channel where you can then see this video. After the fact, if you're not watching live, you can do, I forget what it is. It's like a thanks comment or something. I also try and watch those. If I miss those, I apologize, but I always try and grab the questions from there and write you even after the show. So that being said, as we started the show on a bummer, God, look at me go. Been gone for so long, and then I depress everybody. That's not what I want. That's what I want. So again, with this behind the scenes, what I do is just kind of give a pause. That way I have an edit point. I drop a kind of a clipped video. This is one of those segments. Sometimes I will go ahead and, edit in some more stuff, sometimes music, sometimes not. It all depends on motivation at this point. But that said, if you could just sit tight for 1 second and I will screw things up as usual. There we go. All right, hold on. When I say goodbye to you during this segment, just know I'm not going anywhere. I'll come back to you. We'll get some questions in before I have to go pick up my son. James, this is a loaded question. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is save that for after this, if that's okay. So your thoughts on the recent weather balloon stories. I wasn't planning on answering that, but I'm happy to kind of rattle off some ideas to you. Chris James, yes, I still owe you $500. I said I would pay for some documents. I haven't forgot. Funds are tight, but I will do it, promise. No worries, Chris. I don't hold anybody to anything, but I appreciate that thought. No worries at all. All right, I'm just grabbing these before we start going. Tina, will you be doing that deep dive into Bob Lazar? Yes. Obviously, that was a little bit before Christmas. I forget the exact date, and kind of started piecing something together, and it has turned into a much kind of bigger production. Pardon the phrasing of that, but it really kind of has. I mean, there is so much to that story, but I do still plan on doing it. Part of it also may, like, I don't want to do any unmet expectations here. I don't think that there's going to be anything quote unquote new, meaning like I don't feel like as I dig into this, I'm going to reveal something either for or against Bob Lazar that's going to make the audience go, oh my gosh, either direction. But what I think I want to aim to do with it is essentially just kind of go through the story. Because one thing that I've learned by doing this is that there are so many misconceptions about the story, and that legend has kind of become fact over the years. And despite Bob Lazar being truthful or not, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just like rumors that have kind of circulated for so long that a lot of which is not even backed up. So that's kind of what I want to do, is make it as condensed as I can, but it's going to be lengthy, and just explore those things all in one video, because these things are so disjointed. If you research one aspect, you got to go to one resource and one video or one book, and then another aspect of Lazar's story, you got to go over here. And I'm just trying to like make it a little bit easier for you to make up your own mind on Lazar. I have my own personal thoughts on it, but the point of this channel is not to convey my personal thoughts, but rather this is the evidence. And then sometimes, I'll throw some opinions in there, but it's all about what you guys think, and I try and throw as much out there as I can for you. So bear with me. Let me go ahead and do this one story. I'll probably miss some of the questions as I record this. Shouldn't be too long, though. But give me 1 second. Hey everybody, John Greenwald here with theblackvault.com. This week, I published kind of a fun story, one that was a little bit of a surprise to me, simply because of the agency that it came from and their reputation when it comes to UAP and UFOs, and that is they don't want to talk about it at all. I filed requests to the National Reconnaissance Office, or the NRO, in the past, and those always came up negative. Now, here in 2023, obviously, the UFO and UAP conversation is much different. So what I did was I filed subsequent requests to the NRO again, seeking out UAP and UFO information. Those cases are still open. So still sitting tight for those. But what I received last week was a very interesting letter, and I'm gonna make sure that I credit him as well as we go through the story. But a very interesting letter and message from a researcher by the name of Kyle Warfel. Now, Kyle, I apologize if I have your last name mispronounced. I always regret it if I do, and if I did botch it, I apologize. But credit to Kyle for this, because he had written me a message and said, hey, I got this heavily redacted document from the National Reconnaissance Office. Have you seen this? And I had not. And so I thought, wow, Kyle, I've profiled his work before. If you don't know Kyle, by the way, let me show you. Here's his, if you could see it on screen there, Infinite F as in Frank, T as in Tom, L as in Lucky. Infinite FTL is his Twitter handle. Check him out. Make sure you give him a follow. He's a great researcher, very passionate about what he does. He utilizes the FOIA, and he goes after stuff. I always give credit to those who do that, because there's not many. So thanks to Kyle for that. So he had sent me this document, again, heavily redacted, looked like a PowerPoint presentation. And it was about this program called Sentient that had seen a UAP. Now, to kind of fast forward the story for you guys, I started digging in and realized, although, again, the credit to Kyle for this, but the document had actually been released before. That requester, we don't know. But on top of that, there were multiple documents about Sentient's detection of a UAP. This happened in 2021. So let's kind of dig into it here. And I first want to start about what the heck Sentient is, because I would venture to guess the majority of you haven't heard of this, and don't feel bad if you haven't. I didn't either. I had no idea when Kyle sent this over to me what exactly this was. So I had to dig into a little bit of what sentient was. This was reported on a couple of years ago that it was this highly classified system within the NRO. And let me get you a quote here. In a 2019 article, I'm going to read from here, sentient is, or at least aims to be, an omnivorous analysis tool capable of devouring data of all sorts, making sense of the past and present, anticipating the future, and pointing satellites towards what it determines will be the most interesting parts of that future. Now, that article was written by Sarah Scholes. She's actually been on this channel before. And let me get rid of that comment. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that comment was still on there. The 2019 article was published by The Verge. And again, Sarah was on this story back in 2019. But at the time, she had never connected sentient to UAP. And I had written Sarah before I published this article. I was like, hey, have you heard of a connection between sentient detecting UAP? And she had not. And so that was all kind of new to her. And she was again, one of the original journalists that talked about this highly classified program. So that being said, I want to dive into some of the documents. Now, I believe this is the one that Kyle had sent me, or originally the first one. And this was the title page. So you can see recent sentient highlights, 6 May 2021. This was classified top secret. So again, enforcing that the system that captured this, that detected the UAP, is highly, highly classified. The BLUF acronym, for those who don't know, that's the bottom line up front. So the bottom line up front is essentially, we'll call it an executive summary, and that is the summary of what's going on. You see here, 6 May 2021, sentient, and then redacted, image processing detected a possible airborne object 78 kilometers southeast of, and they won't tell us the location. The object was small. It was less than 10 meters, and it didn't match the visual signature of typical aircraft detections. The object did, however, vaguely resemble similar detections of airborne objects by U.S. Navy aircraft and surface vessels in the redacted operating areas. In parentheses, unidentified aerial phenomena. Here's a quick note. I'm not sure why they would redact this because of point number 2 here. There is a rough similarity to the previously reported tic-tac shape. So we know that likely these were the operating areas off the coast of California during the 2004 Nimitz incident, where they saw a tic-tac shaped aircraft. So, or craft of some kind, whatever it is. So why they redacted it, I'm not really sure. Maybe there was a reference to something else. But to be honest with you, maybe the person redacting just had absolutely no idea. The object was likely not a sensor artifact or focal plane anomaly, although more in-depth imagery analysis is warranted. What they're saying here is the detection likely just wasn't a bug or a glitch in the system. There were no correlating tracks present in redacted reporting, nor was there any correlating electronic or signals intelligence in, again, redacted reporting, despite time coincident access collection. Sentient detections did, however, detect the presence of the probe, and I don't know exactly where it's going here because the rest is redacted, in the same imagery 25 kilometers to the west. In recent reporting, the redacted has been associated with command and control activities as well as more traditional telemetry and space functions. The simultaneous presence of this high-interest vessel is notable, although possibly merely coincidental. What it's essentially saying here is that there was something else in the area and described as a vessel. What exactly that vessel was is redacted and likely classified. Now, by vessel, they likely mean a ship of some kind, at least that's my guess. And maybe they're alluding to the fact that this was some type of platform that was collecting intelligence, tic-tac shaped, small, drone-like, and that's what they're connecting it to, possibly. But then they say, well, it's potentially just a coincidence. Regardless, though, that tic-tac shape and connection to U.S. Navy observations was a very interesting find in the document. This was also another interesting line. I don't know exactly what it means, so take it with kind of a grain of salt. Confidence is relatively low in this detection, but the potential linkage to similar phenomenon off of redacted may warrant further investigation. Obviously, a location. Confidence. I don't understand what they're having low confidence about. So I'm not entirely sure how to interpret that for you, but that's what it says. Now you can check this out. Page denied, and it just keeps going. So the more details about this, maybe photographs, images, even references to a video, all classified, all denied. They claim that it's non-responsive on these two. So you can see here, non-responsive record. So that just simply means maybe it's about something else, not about the UAP detection. But you can see here, all these pages do not have the same. What does that mean? It's about the UAP, but it's classified in full. They don't want to tell you. Here was a second PowerPoint presentation that I dug up. Same kind of format, all about that 6 May 2021 UAP. You can see here also classified top secret. And you can see here the breakdown again. I won't read it because it's primarily the same. But this was one of the best things that came from this second document. The object was also detected / visible in a second overwater image shot in the same area about 15 seconds later. What does that tell you? It's definitely not a glitch in my opinion, because it's now multiple censored. But the second point is that it's multiple censored pickup detected by this second shot. I have filed a case for this second shot because I know that that's the question in your mind right now. Where is it? It could be in one of these pages, and you can see this document goes even farther with page denied. Look how far that goes. Every one. So is one of those pages the photograph? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure that out. I filed a case for the declassification of that image shot. We'll see what happens. I won't read, again, everything to you. I did want to focus on that, however, and this second one, or the second point, I should say, but the last paragraph on this slide. This detection has been shared with the UAP Task Force, redacted, and NGA, redacted lines, for further analysis and coordination. So this was a very interesting line to uncover, because this is showing how the NRO is assisting the UAP task force, the type of data that's going to the UAP task force. There's a lot of criticism out there by some of the more notable debunkers that these are all just pilots telling stories with absolutely no evidence to back it up. Or they'll have a quick cell phone photograph snap that's likely a Batman balloon or whatever, and that's about the extent of what it is. These top secret records prove quite opposite of that, that there are multiple highly classified, highly advanced pieces of technology within the National Reconnaissance Office and beyond that are detecting these objects and being described similarly as the pilots are describing them. My point being that this isn't an anomaly that only certain pilots are seeing and there's no other detection, but rather there is multiple data streams, essentially, that we can now confirm what the pilots are saying. So we don't have to rely on somebody saying, hey, I saw a blue house, trust me. No, there are other sensors that back up that house was blue, to put it very simple. And that's what we're seeing here, that these highly classified systems are confirming the eyewitness accounts. So to dismiss those eyewitness accounts, let's say in certain incidents where that's all you've got, that's the wrong thing to do. Because in the classified world, and now we have irrefutable proof of it, There are multiple sensors detecting the same thing and seeing, technologically speaking, the same shape, the same type of description. So the people that want to discount all that eyewitness stuff, they're wasting their time, because that is a wrong approach to trying to unravel what this mystery is. If it was only that testimony, sure, I can see the point. But here we go, where this is clearly backing up what those pilots are saying. I'm going to scroll through those. Page deleted again, or denied, I should say. Conclusions and way ahead. There are a range of potential hypotheses regarding the identification of the object, none of which can be completely ruled in or out at this time. First bullet point, a redacted Air Force aircraft, for example, another redaction from tail-on aspect. So I'm curious what those redactions are. I mean, clearly the Air Force is involved with highly classified aircraft, the description of which can't even be said. Second point, you history lovers in the UFO world will love this, weather balloon. The third, space debris much closer to imaging vehicle. Space debris, what's that tell you? The imaging vehicle is likely in space. I know that sounds obvious to some of you, but some may not have placed that connection. The fourth bullet point, other. These detections and supporting data were shared across NRO directorates with NGA and with UAP task force elements. Feedback has been extremely positive and appreciative of the contribution. Detection is illustrative of the utility of redacted algorithms when processing large image files. Tremendously reduces but does not eliminate human exploitation burden. The same sentient redaction processing strategy that resulted in this detection could be applied to, redacted again, EO collections off of redactions in areas where multiple detections have been previously reported. Read between the lines there. There are areas where they have had continued sightings and multiple detections. The same method that they figured out this UAP and detected it on multiple instrumentation, this slide is saying, hey, let's do that in these other areas. So yeah, those redactions are frustrating, but that's okay. Look at what we can read, and we can start to deduce that they, in their investigative process, is realizing that their techniques are working, and they want to do this a little bit more in depth and more broad, meaning go to these areas that have multiple detections. I wonder where those are. Off the coast of Virginia, off the coast of Florida, California, or somewhere else. We don't really know. But at least we can see how their investigative process is unfolding. Discussions are underway with NGA on approaches for execution. Takes advantage of existing sentient infrastructure and processing capabilities. So again, it's a little dry. It's a PowerPoint presentation, bullet point, maybe from a briefing of some kind. Who knows exactly where this came from? There's no context in that regard, but we can determine an awful lot. And some more, page denied. They say non-responsive, but who knows? It could say that and not really mean it. The last thing I want to point out to you guys before I end the video, and all of these are available to you in the link below, so make sure that you click on that. You can download all these documents. I'm only scratching the surface. I know, I'll repeat it again, redactions are frustrating because you look at them and go, we can't really figure it all out. Well, we can't figure it all out, but we can figure out a lot. So definitely take a look at it, read through it, see what you can determine yourself. This was a release also in regards to the UAP task force and sentience and how it could help the UAP task force. One of the things that was pretty interesting through all this was some of the banter back and forth on how the sentient system can help the UAPTF. And one very interesting part of this was on June 29th, 2021. It says, good morning. And we don't know, by the way, who it's to or who it's from. That's all redacted. We don't know if it's a contractor, the NRO, to the NRO, from the NRO. Who knows? Sadly, we're just left to speculate. But we know that it is secret. So obviously these are individuals that are highly cleared and that are able to hear about the sentient system and talk about the UAP task force and that whole effort. So to the email, good morning. NRO sentient R&D as a UAP model to look for UAP redacted in imagery, but we need an external customer to ask for it to be turned on. And you are our primary customer. So would you mind assisting us? So I'm going to repeat this. NRO sentient R&D as a UAP model to look for UAP redacted in imagery, but we need an external customer to ask for it to be turned on. Turn what on? Is there a detection model that's already written for UAP in here that they're utilizing in sentient, but they needed to turn it on? And who's the primary customer? Are we talking about some contractor of some kind? Are we talking about a different agency? The possibilities on there's a few of them. I don't know the answer to it, and I won't pretend to. There's a lot of people that have ideas, but sadly, we just don't know yet. So who is turning on the UAP model, or who has to request it? That, to me, was one of the more interesting finds in this. A highly classified system that either has a UAP model or has a model of some kind that can be used for UAP detection. That, to me, is fascinating. And now the question mark is, did they turn it on? And they likely did. But on top of that, what other detections have they made? The releases on Sentient were all surrounding the UAP on that one day. I don't know the original requester, and I don't know what they requested. So what that means is there could be 10 more. There could be 100 more. There could be 1,000 more. We don't know on what Sentient has detected. So after these documents, right before I published the article, I filed another case with the NRO for the declassification of every UAP tagged detection by the Sentient system. So the likelihood of this being the only one, probably pretty nil. Are there more? I would venture to guess yes, because we know when we look at the UAP report, the NRO is listed as a contributing agency to the report. So we know that there's been back and forth between them and interaction. I've gone after that interaction and through FOIAs and want to see what that is. But this is even more evidence of their contribution. So this was a pretty awesome find. So there's more you can see just in this alone. There's different slides, more pages denied. Again, I can make this video 7 hours long dissecting all this. But I want you guys to take a look at the documents again. Click on the link below and let me know what you think. If you're watching here on YouTube, make sure you post your comments below. The biggest help that you can give me is liking the video, sharing the video, give that thumbs up. It really does help a lot. If you're watching on another format, please do the same, like, share, star, whatever it is on that particular social media network. It is a huge, huge help. That said, this is John Greenwald Jr. signing off, and we will see you next time. All right, so that's the break on that. Give me 1 second. If you kind of joined in the middle of that, it is a behind-the-scenes show. This is simply to kind of record segments or sometimes a segment, answer questions, all that good stuff. So I explained that a little bit in the beginning, but if you missed it, that's what this video is. And then I go through and I clip those segments and then put them out for much shorter content. I'm going to go from the bottom up here. I tried to keep watch on the comments, but I don't do a good job at that while I'm recording, simply because I know I'll get sidetracked. That comment, whomever, I totally blanked to take that off. So when I drop the actual video, I'll probably blur it or find a graphic or something to put on it. And, you know, the magic of editing, I'll be able to get it out of there. So let me, again, if you have any questions, all caps is a huge help. Super chats, which I just saw one come in, also a huge help simply because they stick out. It's very, very hard, especially when I'm broadcasting to every network, to kind of keep up on that. I wish I could show you my screen with these comments. It is page after page. So I'm going to go and try and get as many as I can here. Black Dread Scotland, thank you so much for your continued support. I've seen your name here and you've supported so many times. Thank you for that. Welcome back. Do you think that UFO folklore has been used for counterintelligence purposes in order to hide certain U.S. assets and weaknesses in airspace? This is a fantastic question, and I don't know if it stems from what I posted today, earlier this morning or maybe yesterday, but it was all about the counterintelligence value of the UAP conversation. I've talked about it on this channel before quite a few times, and I think that we are seeing it play out. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in a nutshell, I believe that there is and let me put this up front, I believe that there's a mysterious part of these phenomena that we can't explain. I don't believe it all is rooted to top secret U.S. Air Force technology. I don't believe that it's Chinese drones or balloons. I don't believe that it's just UAV. I believe, yes, all of that plays a role in the conversation, but it does not take over the conversation. But with my belief, and this is based on the evidence that I've collected over 26 years from the U.S. government, there is a percentage of this that truly remains a unexplained phenomenon. They can't explain it within the U.S. military, and I'm going well before 2017. I'm not dealing with today. I'm talking about decades of sightings, of detections, all exhibiting qualities that we didn't have at the time. Not to give myself a shameless plug, but that was one of the things I will aim to do in this book, was to get some of those documents profiled where, here we are decades after some of those incidents happened, and they were seeing things flying at speeds and detected by multi-sensors that were going beyond the speed that we were capable at the time. Now, you would think that if we were able to, after quite a few decades, declassify something, we could go back and explain it. The CIA tried to do that with the U-2 flights, with the sightings through the 1950s. So that's the strategy I'm referring to. The CIA completely put their foot in their mouth because they weren't smart about it. They didn't do research. The U-2 didn't get off the ground and do a flight for years into the 1950s decade. So for them to claim the entire decade was them was completely false. So that's what I'm talking about. And we don't have those explanations for some of these other cases that largely have been lost in time, that nobody really talks about them anymore. Now it's about Tic Tacs this and Nimitz that and Florida here and blah, blah, blah. All of those are great, right? But I think that we're missing a huge chunk of history. Now, going back to your question about the counterintelligence value, that mysterious part of this can be buried in the talk about balloons, drones, UAVs, UASs, so on and so forth, and have that water muddied. In the same respect, talk about a mystery, which the U.S. government and military started to do. Now what are they doing? They're solving that mystery. So what does that do? Are we getting smarter? Are we safer as a society? To be honest with you, I really don't know. I'm confused that the government really didn't know or wasn't easily detecting these types of balloons going over. So there's so many questions as you drill down in every aspect. But the end result is this: confusion on trying to unravel the mystery. Not the mystery of the phenomenon itself, but the mystery of what does America know and what does it not. Does China have some drone that we are calling a mystery, but we know actually exactly what it is, but we're trying to mess up that dialogue? Maybe. That is the true definition of counterintelligence. You essentially prohibit the ability for these world powers, these intelligence agencies from all over the world, to really figure it out. And as a result of that, espionage and spying on America becomes much more difficult because you don't know what's real or not. You don't know, like, what really does America know and what really do they not? What really are they looking into? What really are they testing? What really do they believe? And again, when you look at the definition of counterintelligence value and how deceit is used, and then you look at the last 5 years and you realize both sides of this, when you talk about the government or those that have come out of the government, there are, in my opinion, there's ample proof of deceit on both sides. Why is that? Is that all part of counterintelligence to confuse the masses? Maybe. I've never been on this whole PSYOP conspiracy bandwagon that a lot of people are. And I'm still not here going to preach to you now that I am. But in the same respect, you have to ask those questions. Where does national security take over when it comes to the U.S. government and military being honest with you? Where does it behoove them more in the interest of national security to just simply lie? And those are questions we need to ask, not because I want to be conspiratorial, but because history proves that we should ask. You look at all these programs that were in development for decades upon decades, and we didn't know about them for decades upon decades. In some cases, they were lying to you that they were not doing certain things, that certain facilities or Air Force installations did not exist, yet they did. So when you look at that, you have to ask your question ask that question based on history. They deceive. Again, all goes into the root of counterintelligence. You take all of that into account. You go back to that little percentage of the mystery, the real stuff that we really want to know more about, not the classified weapons or platforms or whatever, not on any of that. The true mystery gets buried in all that mud that has been thrown out there in the interest of national security. So not to go off on a tangent, but yeah, I think absolutely the counterintelligence perspective is utilized in this conversation. And to be honest with you, it's working. You look at some people that have come along, very smart minds that were taken in by the mystery, and now they just go, oh, look, I mean, intelligence failure, but we're primarily talking about balloons and drones. That to me is a fascinating turn, simply because the writing was on the wall. That would happen. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's unfortunate because that small percentage of what really deserves our attention is getting lost. And that's absolutely too bad. So hopefully I answered your question there and not rambled too much. USTIGE, US TIG. Thank you for that support of the channel. No question. Feel free to ask one though. And I will be more than happy to answer that for you. Yeah, we'll talk about well, I know somebody asked this before. I mean, I think I just kind of gave the thoughts to kind of expand on this, because this is being asked a lot in the channel. The recent talk about the Chinese spy balloons and the shoot down of these objects that are clearly like probably balloons or are balloons, I should say, but clearly not like this big mystery. I think that has taken over, and it should not have. Was that strategic? I'm not sure. Does it sound like it's strategic? Yes. And what I mean by that is, now look at how certain voices that have talked about the mystery and the intrigue behind these phenomena, again, that lack explanation. Those voices have turned a bit. Some of them. I don't want to sit and name names, but I'm sure you guys can figure out who I'm referring to. And if you can't, then just kind of look around and see what the general consensus is, especially in the media. Check my wall and the wall of others. I try and post articles. So you'll start to see a shift in the stories that are being told. And it really gives the aura that the phenomenon, or these phenomena, plural, with the way I usually refer to it as, are explainable, and that they're more of essentially more of something that is already known, and to explore the mystery behind UFOs is essentially a hindrance. Now, compliments to Tom Rogan for writing a piece for the Washington Examiner. I believe it was published yesterday. I posted it today. But that was one of the comments that I made about this counterintelligence value. Look at what Tom Rogan reports about what he's hearing from his research and his reporting about how essentially these Chinese balloons were missed because of a personal bias to make things about UFOs and make it a little bit more spooky than it is. Now, is there truth to that? I'm not sure. I mean, I can't sit here and vouch, because sadly, Tom had some anonymous sources as well. So I don't like anonymous sources, because I can't verify any of that. But it's an interesting take, because true or not, right? Verifiable or not, put that out of your head for a second. It's now out there, right? So that idea that UFO research into a mystery is a hindrance, and that in itself is a national security risk, takes me back to the 1950s when the CIA did the Robertson panel. And they felt that the research of UFOs was pointless because UFOs were explainable and not a threat to national security. But by doing so, the national security threat was born out of people like you and I. That we as society, if we were scared or frightened because we saw something in the sky, rumors could start and they could overload the system. So the 911 operators and that whole infrastructure on a local level could collapse. And when you read the Robertson panel report, that is why they essentially said and concluded, you guys, meaning the government as a whole, need to explain these cases. Not investigate them, but essentially explain them, and to calm the nerves and the general ideas of the public. Get rid of that. Well, look at what's going on now. It's the same thing. UFOs are a hindrance. They were a threat to national security because we missed a threat to national security, all because people wanted to research UFOs. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying the idea is now out there. People are telling reporters like Tom Rogan those things, and that is now being reported. So it will be an interesting thing to see how these conversations turn, because that's exactly what I'm concerned about. If you start labeling UFO research bad because we missed national security threats, because people wanted to make a mystery where there was none, true or not, it doesn't matter. That will resonate. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see the politicians start to back way off. They will then focus on the true threat that they can prove. Sure, Chinese spy balloons. Sure, whatever other country flying surveillance equipment, whatever it may be. That's absolutely worthy of investigation. But they will back off from the mysterious part of all of this because of, you guessed it, the stigma is back. Because it's being bantered about through channels of the Department of Defense, through reporters like Tom Rogan, where they said, yeah, we could have really kind of nicked this in the bud a little bit earlier, but those involved in the UAP task force were more involved in UFOs and mystery and making it more exaggerated versus the actual threat itself, but versus what they were really seeing. And that's a problem. Again, true or not, it does not matter, but it kind of plays into that counterintelligence value of this, because now they're controlling the narrative, not only confusing it, but controlling it. And that's an issue to me. So I get fired up about stuff like that. Hopefully that answered your question, though. Jay from Facebook, what are we reading? You're probably talking about the documents I was going over. You'll be able to see those on the blackvault.com right now. It's on the front page. Maybe later, from the date of recording this, it will not be. It'll fall off, but you'll still be able to see it. But they're all NRO documents. Natalie, hopefully I just went through the balloon objects enough for you, so not really sure where to expand beyond that. Christopher Thomas, your coverage and perspective is extremely important. Glad to see you back. Very sorry for your loss. I appreciate that, Christopher. Thank you for the kind words on both of those ends of that. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. My favorite people from Down Under, Grant Levac, is in the chat, although I'm going back like 20 minutes now into the chat. So if you're not here, we missed you. Thank you guys for all of the great kind words. I really appreciate it. Tim, longtime watcher of this channel, thank you for that. It's always good to see you here. Going through the comments here. What do you think about the TR3B issue? I'm not sure what issue you're referring to, so forgive me for not having an eloquent answer for you. I'm not sure if there's something going on right now that I've missed. Admittedly, I've been a little out of touch on certain things. So if there's something, definitely email if you mean TR3B overall, being a classified aircraft. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there's something out there similar to descriptions of the TR3B. Again, more of the down-to-earth descriptions. Sometimes things go hog wild and crazy out there. But yeah, it's just one of those things that's rumored at this point. Really can't, give you any blueprints or anything like that. Sorry, catching up on comments here. So Dan, remember something was alleged about the government having some way of attracting UAPs. Maybe that that's what that means in the document with turning something on. That's an interesting theory. I kind of deduced from the document, though, that it was more detection, that there was something in there that was, able to detect this more. And that particular model, which it sounded like they were kind of referring to as a UAP model, but maybe it was a model for something else, and then they realized that model could you be used to detect UAP. I think it's more detection rather than attraction. So I would think that that's what that is. I do know what you're referring to, though. That was something that was started in the debrief. I think it was the online news site. That's one that obviously is very intriguing. But is it one of those things that just will never prove? Is it one of those things that maybe sounds a lot cooler than it really is? I don't know. I really don't. Off the top of my head, I recall trying to request something on that, but I'll have to double check my notes on exactly what. It's kind of hard to do a blanket request like give me everything you got on attracting UAP. That's a little bit problematic. So without any type of lead to go on what branch of the military is doing it, what agency is doing it, how are they doing it, even like a broad stroke explanation, absent of all of that, it's very, very hard to track down those claims. Well, Bob, I saw the all caps. What a beautiful take. I'm not sure who that is referring to, but I'm glad you saw a beautiful take out there. Grant, good to see you, John. Thank you for all you do. Despite FOIA's recent stunning and inadvertent admission that time travel is real, do you see or anticipate any reforms on the horizon for FOIA? If you don't know what Grant's referring to, I posted a joke yesterday. They had told me they received my request like 7 months prior to where we are now, or whatever it was, like August of 2023. So I put a joke out there that, we nailed it. We finally proved time travel is real. And the reaction to stuff like that is so funny to me, because obviously I'm not claiming that because of a typo. But people on Facebook, actually, all my friends over there on Facebook, I know you're watching right now, some people actually got mad at me because they thought that I was making the claim. Like, they really thought that I said time travel was real, and they were like lecturing me about, it's just a typo and how can you do this and this and that. I'm like, all right, guys, it's pretty much almost Friday. Let's relax a little bit, take a deep breath. Not everything's so serious. So that's what Grant's referring to. Reforms on the horizon for FOIA. Grant, it's a great question, and one that for 26 years now, we requesters always want to see, and periodically we see reforms. There's always reform being bantered about, but actually implementing that reform is a whole nother question. A lot of times, too, even if reforms are implemented, they're generally never practiced by the agency. So it's just kind of such a horrible arena to operate in, because it's the U.S. government, number one. And number two, there's no universal way that the government processes these FOIAs. There should be. There's just simply not. And where I go with that is every agency has their own kind of quirks about processing FOIAs. Yes, there is a universal law that they should adhere to. And yes, there should be uniform processes that they adhere to. Sadly, there's just not. Those reforms, I think last year they had a hearing, and, you hear these senators and stuff, and they have the hearing and they're talking about transparency and, we owe the general public this and we owe them that, and we need to do X, Y, and Z. After those hearings, like, nothing happens. So when you watch that, you get all excited, like, wow, reform is coming. Grant, I can't wait. I sat through these hearings. It's coming. Nothing changed. Nothing. Nothing passed from what I understand. I mean, maybe something was, but I haven't seen it. So, long-winded way of saying probably not. Even though they may promise it, we never see it. And that's kind of the bad thing. Every presidential term too, if you go back through the presidential administrations, they always do this memo, the agency-wide memo. They send it to everybody and renew your interest in FOIA and side on the side of transparency versus secrecy. And blah blah blah. It's all optics. They want that aura that they believe in transparency, but when it comes down to it, they just simply don't. I hope I'm proven wrong, but at this point, we just have to play the cards we're dealt, and they're bad cards sometimes. Here's another interesting theory about the turning on comment in that document. Randy Rainville, turning on could refer to funding or authorization to proceed. Randy, although it's a great thought, and I love people's thoughts on this, the only reason why I would say no, let me see, there we go. That they're referring to the, let me make sure I'm not misunderstanding what you're saying. So refer to funding or authorization. So sentient was in operation. I don't think that that's disputed. So in other words, the system was there. There's a model in it, which again is this R&D, research and development. I don't know. But if that's what they're referring to as a UAP model, what in that system that was already on did they need to turn on? Because I think sentient as a whole has been in operation and is likely, I can't prove this, but I did see rumors that sentient is now something else from 2021. So here we are in 2023, that it's possible that it's actually a different system, something that is even more advanced, but also called something else. Again, that's just kind of rumor at this point. I can't prove that to you. But my whole point is that the system itself, I think, was operational, but there was something within it, a programming, a models of some kind that they wanted to create a UAP model after, to look for UAP something in imagery. What this redaction is here is kind of intriguing. What are they redacting but associating with UAP? Does that make sense? So try and fill in the blank there. UAP what? Signatures doesn't make real sense because we already know they would have a signature. That's how that they can detect it's UAP. So there's certain words that you can try and fill in there, but the reason for redacting is something different. So who knows why? I wish I knew a better answer for you, but with those types of redactions, trying to figure that out, it becomes a little, problematic and very difficult. Happiness within. Facebook still exists. Yeah, last time I checked, I guess. Seems like it's all about Twitter nowadays. I thought Twitter was supposed to die, though. I don't know. I can never keep it straight. Oh man, very active chat room. It's close to 400 watching live throughout all the media networks, the social media networks. So thank you for that. These are always fun because I don't advertise them, but like 5 minutes out. So to have like 400 people watching right now is kind of fun. So thank you for that. I think so. Yeah. Could the system be an AI? Yes. And I, is it sentient in the true name of what it has? Likely not, but who knows? You never know. But no, I don't think it's a sentient AI, but rather that it said that it was in the article that I can bring it back up here, but in the 2019 article that I had referred to here, that it essentially takes in and analyzes all sorts of data from the past, from the present, and it tries to anticipate the future. So I think that with that the way that it's being described as published in 2019 and what's believed to be about sentient, it definitely is AI. To what advancement level of AI, I couldn't couldn't vouch for, but I think that it's something that can analyze that data, put it out there, and try and make sense of it. I appreciate that. Good to see you back. Also, my condolences to you and family of loss of your father. I appreciate it. No, Patty, didn't. Twitter did not die. Still there. Awful parts of Twitter, but you know what? It is a powerful tool. It's probably where I'm most active, just simply because it really is powerful. There's a lot of people there, and it's fun. There's certain pits of what that I hate wading through, and sometimes you find yourself there, but it's still a lot of fun. Okay, so that said, I I have to take off to go get my son. So I just want to just give you a last thought. I really appreciate the amazing support, not even in the chat room, but as I said in the beginning, if you guys joined late with the passing of my father, you know, I don't talk about stuff like that a whole lot. But my mom, myself, with those postings received well over 1,000 letters and notes and just amazing words from all around the globe, even in different languages. It was an amazing thing to see. So on behalf of my family, thank you all for that. It was just kind of this amazing thing to see, you know, to have humans all come together and just kind of put, obviously a lot of us all converse and debate and talk, and in some cases even argue about things. But when it matters, everybody comes together and just embraces that grief, you know, and they're right there with you. And that was an amazing thing to see. So truly, thank you all for that. I mean, it really meant a lot to my mom. And in fact, my dad as well. My dad saw quite a few messages because he watches the Black Vault on Facebook and riles some people up as well. But he saw a lot of those messages as well, and talked to me in the hospital about it, and before he had passed away. So he saw it too. So for those who did comment on that, know that my dad saw it as well. So thank you for that. Jared Humphreys, I'd love to get a heads up on these live videos. Well, first, thank you so much for your support of the channel. Yeah, just make sure, and that brings up a good point, make sure you're subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. I know I'm broadcasting on Facebook and Twitter. You guys are probably seeing it on, but just know that that YouTube is going to be the best way to get notified of the live videos, because that's where they'll email you if you turn the notifications on. If you have the app on your phone, I think it'll pop up and say I'm live. So if you want that notification, it's pretty simple. Go to theblackvault.com/live, and that will bounce you to the YouTube channel. That's where you can subscribe and turn the notifications on, and then that way you will be able to get notified the easiest way. I'll still broadcast to the other networks as well, but I just don't have faith in their notifications versus what I've seen on YouTube. So that's the best way. That's a great way to end. Jared, thank you so much for again, that support, but also the question itself. And thank you all. I really do appreciate it. You have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And who knows, maybe I'll be back tomorrow on Friday just to kind of relax a little bit with you guys on a Friday night, and we'll bang out another segment together and banter about all these questions, because I'm sure I missed a lot. Thanks again. We'll talk to you guys soon.